Finance Minister gives explanation on 2024-2025 budget implementation before Senate committee. Plus, UNDP partners federal government for economic development. Welcome to Panorama. I am Musa Abubakar. The National Council of State has endorsed the nomination of Professor George Ojo Amupitan as the new chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. The council, at its meeting yesterday, also approved the nomination of Minu Yusuf from Niger State for chairmanship of National Population Commission, MPC. State House correspondent Musbah Wahab reports that the Police Council's meeting was also held successfully.
President Bola Tinubu would chair the National Council of State meeting for the second time. Former heads of state, General Ibrahim Babangida and General Abdulsalami Abubakar, were online for the meeting, well attended by state governors. The meeting came timely after Professor Mahmoud Yakubu bowed out as chairman, Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. President Tinubu consequently nominated Professor George Ojo Amupitan from Kogi State to assume the leadership role of the electoral umpire. The council unanimously approved the nomination of a 58-year-old professor who specializes in company law, law of evidence, corporate governance and privatization law.
Speaker after speaker spoke glowingly of this professor as a very serious-minded scholar, a man of high integrity, and a tested and trusted hand who has never participated in any partisan politics.
Similarly, following the approval of the council, Dr. Aminu Yusuf from Niger State will now take over as the new chairman of the National Population Commission, NPC. On other matters, the Advisory Committee on Prerogative of Mercy, through the Office of Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, got approval of the council to pardon a total of 175 persons.
Of the total, email recommended for presidential clemency were about 82. Those recommended for reduced sentence for their terms of imprisonment are 65. And those recommended for reduced sentences from death to life imprisonment are about 7 in number.
The council equally sanctioned the report of the National Earners Awards Committee, which recommended a total of 824 out of about 5,000 applicants for the year 2024-2025 National Earners and Awards.
The Super Falcons of Nigeria and the Tigers were honored for their international representation and achievements in sports, and Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, the immediate past INEC chairman, was also honored for his service to Nigeria's democratic process. The list of the successful candidates will be published shortly.
The names of the Ogoni 9 and Ogoni 4, earlier honored posthumously by President Bola Tinubu for their environmental activism and sacrifice, were also included on the list of the national awardees, as well as under the prerogative of mercy. From the Police Council meeting, which held immediately after, the council approved the request of improved allocation from 0.5% to 1% of the federal allocation to the Nigeria Police Trust Fund. The council also granted the prayer for the repeal and reenactment of the Nigeria Police Trust Fund Establishment Act 2025.
Direct the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice to input all the approvals of the Council in the proposed executive bill. All these prayers have been approved.
The peaceful repose of his soul.
The Police Council observed a minute silence in honor of the 18th Inspector General of Police, Solomon Arase, who passed away recently.
May his soul rest in perfect peace. Amen.
From the State House, Musbao and Wahab, NTA News.
INEC, the oxygen to democracy, is in another stage of leadership transition from Professor Mahmoud Yakubu to Professor Jaush Ojo Amupitan. What is the task ahead and the capacity of the man coming to lead this critical institution? Mia Ogidi gives us a preview.
Personnel may change, but the institution endures. Professor Mahmoud Yakubu left here just 48 hours ago.
It will also enable the new chairman to quickly settle down to the task of conducting elections and electoral activities in Africa's most demographically and logistically complex environment. There is this, how do they put it in Latin, magnus opus. This is the nominal role of all the staff of INEC nationwide. Anybody whose name is not there, matters will arise. Thank you.
Professor Joash Amobitan on his way to take over, all things being equal. From professor to professor. And a promising character is what Nigerians expect for a proud electoral system. 58-year-old Professor Joash, just not a professor by nomenclature, but a proud professor of law, University of Jos, Plateau State, proud son of Ayetoro in Kogi State, pioneer INEC chairman designate from the north-central geopolitical zone of the country. But this appointment comes with a test with eyes paid if the process favors him. Anambra State governorship election slated for 8th of November 2025, a litmus test ahead of the 2027 general election. The task and expectations quite enormous for Professor Amupitan. Hot seat that needs hot decisions. All eyes now away from Professor Mahmoud Yakubu and placed on Professor Josh Ojo Amupitan. Mayor Ogede, NTA News.
Now, the need to optimize capacity for socio-economic development and adopt measures to enhance security has been identified as critical to combating regional threats undermining Africa's industrialization. Defense correspondent Ismail Musa reports that this was the focus of the inaugural lecture for Course 34 of the National Defense College, Abuja.
Africa is regarded as one of the most endowed continents in the world, blessed with vast human and natural resources. Despite this abundance, persistent political instability in the Sahel region, terrorism and other transborder crimes continue to pose significant threats to the continent's socio-economic development. The lecture emphasized the urgent need for African nations to build local capacity, strengthen governance and address security challenges that have consistently hindered progress.
Africa has the talent, the resources, and the markets to achieve this transformation. What is required now is coordination, conviction, and continuity. This discipline to stay the course, the leadership to inspire others.
Addressing poverty, unemployment, inequality, and insecurity will become significantly easier once the country's industrial capacity is fully optimized.
The hosting of this event is a demonstration of the college's commitment to professional military education, which remains essential for strong and effective defense and security architecture in Africa and the world.
Speakers at the event stressed that for Africa to achieve its full potential, peace, stability, and regional cooperation must remain top priorities. In Abuja, Ismail Musa, NTA News.
Federal government has given all federal tertiary institutions 30 days deadline to reconcile and submit reports of unutilized balances within the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, TED Fund, for joint verification. Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, issued the directive at a meeting with heads of federal tertiary institutions, bosses and procurement directors. Zaret Linknam reports.
This engagement is part of the ministry's renewed commitment to enforcing zero-tolerance policy on financial mismanagement and addressing recurrent issue of unutilized funds in tertiary institutions. To further address the challenge, plans are underway to introduce capacity-building programs aimed at enhancing expertise in procurement and project management, alongside the enforcement of quarterly reviews.
These are funds that we need to rebuild classes, build laboratories, engineering workshops, faculty offices, student auditoriums, buy instructional materials to tertiary institutions. Also, some of these funds might even be there that have lecturers need for career advancement.
There are guidelines on how these funds are being accessed. And once that guidelines are not met, that money cannot be accessed.
The Ministry of Education appeals to stakeholders to work collectively towards reversing the negative trend and ensure prudent use of public resources. In Abuja, Zenred Dingmun, NTA News.
President Bola Tinubu congratulates Al-Amin Muhammad Idris, Chief Executive of Interface Africa, on winning the Next Gen Innovation Challenge. Interface Africa, representing Kaduna, won a cash award of $1.5 million, at the challenge's grand finale. The Next Gen Innovation Challenge is a national initiative spearheaded by the National Board for Technology Incubation in partnership with UCOLD London. The president strongly believes that the innovative potential of Nigerian youths is boundless. Hence, his administration's deliberate policies and programs to harness and catalyze this vital resource. President Tinubu also commends the other 104 participants and encourages them to keep innovating, improving lives, and shaping humanity's future. Ahead of the 2026 budget presentation by the executive, the Senate Committee on Finance has demanded for physical documents on 2024 and 2025 budgets implementation to guide the 2026 and 2029 medium-term expenditures framework. MTEF Chairman of the committee, Senator Sani Musa, stated this while briefing newsmen shortly after a close session with the Finance Minister. National Assembly correspondent Isa Muhammad has more.
Team members said, as the year 2025 runs up, Nigerians need to know the state of the economy and the status of the 2024-2025 budget implementation.
We need to do more progress. We have heard from the Accountant General, we have heard from the Director of Budgets where we are with the budgets. The payments that have so far been released, the warrants that have so far been signed, and also regarding the 2025 authority to incur expenditure for agencies to be able to release their capital projects.
The Minister of Finance, Wale Edun, explains that despite challenges, the country is making progress.
At this point in time, all agree that we do have an economy where the major distortions have been removed, an economy that is stabilized with inflation coming down, and with the economy accelerating in growth across all sectors, not just agriculture, but even industry. And if you say that the economy is growing in the last quarter in the second quarter of 2025 at the rate of 4.323%, it masks the fact that in terms of the various sectors, the all-important job-creating industrial sector grew at about...
The issue of external borrowing, the minister attributed it to the need for the implementation of 2025 budgets. The interface continues on the 23rd of this month to cross-examine relevant documents on 2024-2025 budgets implementation. From the National Assembly, Isa Muhammad, NTA.
It's now time to pause for a break. Panorama continues after the break. Thanks for being there. Amid global uncertainty, the business as usual narrative is changing, and business unusual is becoming the new normal. Maria Aduzakari reports that the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, is partnering the Nigeria's economic team to reposition the country towards realizing its full economic potential.
I don't like to talk about oil and gas because I keep saying people can't drink oil and gas.
Across the world, shifting economic balances continue to test developing nations, and emerging economies like Nigeria remain amongst the most vulnerable. This meeting seeks to upscale Nigeria from a consumption-driven economy to one anchored on innovation, productivity, and human capital development.
You need to ensure that you have the right governance framework, the regulatory framework, the policy framework that will attract people. We need to reduce the cost of doing business, the risk and the associated cost of doing business in Nigeria.
GDP in Africa, Nigeria is among the top 5. But if you look at economic complexity, Nigeria is among the bottom 5.
And the shifts that we've been talking about here today is that development finance is shrinking and shrinking fast. ODA is going down. We see shifts from aid to trade. We see shifts, for example, in the technological space.
The collaboration also focuses on strengthening policy design, attracting sustainable investments, and building a more resilient economy, from energy to manufacturing and digital services. Maria Adozakari, NTA News.
Nigeria is tidying its cyberspace, rebranded its image both locally and globally to build trust of users and attract investors. In this light, NIDA and its partners from the private sector have designed the Nigerian Digital Trust Mark, a tool that will authenticate genuine websites of government and private organizations. Chindimma in the BC will tell us more.
Have you ever gone online to check out some government establishments and you log on to their websites and later discovered it was cloned? Kene here has such an ugly experience.
They said that it's a website for job hunts. You understand? So I was thinking that the website is real. When I logged into it, they started saying that I should pay.
It is to address this that the National Information Technology Development Agency, NITDA, and its partners developed the Digital Trust Mark, a seal that will distinguish authentic websites from fake ones. The Nigeria Digital Trust Mark will eliminate activities of cybercriminals who clone authentic organizations' websites to defraud unsuspecting cyber users. It will also expose fraudulent online business platforms that collect payment but fail to deliver the ordered goods and services.
Every company, every e-commerce platform, every business, every government organization will have a trust seal mark on their website to ensure they are authentic websites.
This is actually in alignment with the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, precisely the Digital Trade Protocol.
The trust mark, renewable every year, though optional for private business platforms, is compulsory for government agencies with sanctions for those who fail to comply. In Abuja, Chimdema Ndibisi, NTA News.
With a resounded voice, the Speaker, House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, has maintained the stance of the 10th Assembly in ensuring that women representation and all-round well-being of girl-child is of priority in the ongoing Constitution review. This he affirmed when playing host to the delegation of the Gender Mobile Initiative in commemoration of the 2025 International Day of the Girl Child. National Assembly correspondent Joshua Ogunjide tells us more.
Here they are, from different ethnic backgrounds, representing millions of Nigerian girls seeking prominence in decision-making, having passed through a short mentorship workshop to lay down their submissions.
It reminds us of the urgency to listen,
urgency to act, and urgency to create a world where girls themselves would have their realities as living possibilities and not as deferred dreams.
Could there be opportunities for selected girls across Nigeria to participate in legislative exchange programs, an initiative that would allow us to observe parliamentary sittings, engage with lawmakers, and build our leadership and policy capacity early?
The interaction continued with emphasis on women representation in the National Assembly, girl-child participation in governance, as well as girl-child safety.
We have come up with a bill called the Reserve Seats for Women, and the House, from its own side, has decided to even engage a lot of them as legislative aides to further acquire more training.
As an academic, Speaker Habas Tajuddin likewise touched vices bordering on tertiary education, early child marriages, child labor, and pedophilic tendencies in the society, alongside constituency interventions for younger generation.
So we will support this initiative of taking it to all the nooks and corners of the country, to all our tertiary institutions, that enough is enough on the issue of sexual harassment of female students, particularly by lecturers. Can remember, any member in every annual provision that does not include certain amount of money meant for training and empowering women and youth in his constituency.
The global theme for the day is Girl I Am, the change I lead before my time runs out. In Abuja, Joshua Oguchide, NTA News.
Towards fostering cross-border legislation and unlocking African international relations, the National Assembly is assuring its Ghanaian counterpart of continued collaboration for effective legislation. Director General of the Institute of Legislative and Democratic Studies, Professor Abubakar Suleiman, gave the assurance during a benchmarking visit by members of the Committee of the Independent Constitutional Bodies of the Parliament of Ghana in Abuja. Muhammad Rabiu Ali reports.
This is fifth time the Ghanaian Parliament is visiting Nigeria for knowledge sharing and legislative practice. The Committee of the Parliament of Ghana was at Niels to gain the formula of success achieved and understand how the Institute deepened democratic architecture of the Nigerian governance.
I'm sure the curriculum may not be very different, but I want to leave here picking one or two to go back to Ghana and see how we can also refresh our curriculum and make our institute not just as big structurally as we have seen here. Ours is not that big, but also as impactful.
The Director General presented the institutional structure of NILS, commending Nigeria's government for establishing the institute.
I want to believe, just as we have in Ghana too, is left for the parliaments in Africa, devise better way of funding that organ of government. Because without that organ of government, I keep on saying, like them, hate them, without the legislature, there is no democracy.
The two countries agreed to explore more opportunities in extending the capacity beyond legislature. In Abuja, Muhammad Rabiu Ali, NTA News.
Well, that report concludes Panorama. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day.